I'm an RMT member, work on London Underground. I'm also a socialist. I'm involved in a campaign called Free Our Unions, which is about getting the Labour Party explicitly to talk about repealing all the anti-union laws, but also it's about fighting the government and anyone that tries to bring in union laws that are going to restrict workers' rights further. And we know now in Boris Johnson's Queen's speech that this law, which will restrict rail workers, transport workers like myself, is the latest attack that we've seen over the years since Thatcher on the right to strike. So it's important to be here, important to show our solidarity with those taking action and be prepared in the new year to fight this law and defeat it.
Cool. So I suppose, would it be fair to me to say that it comes down to bodily autonomy, essentially? It's people having the right to do what they want, as long as, of course, it's not hurting others.
I think it's about the collective right of workers to be able to withdraw their labour power. The only power workers have in a workplace. Okay, bosses can do what they want, as you say, since they've got autonomy in that sense, but workers' only power in that workplace is to be able to say, no, we're downing tools and we're stopping what we're doing in order for us to win the rights that we deserve.
I don't know if you know much about other industries where there's issues with unions as well, but my dad is a slaughterhouse worker,
right.
and essentially there's no unions there. And what happens is most people who work there come from other countries, and they end up being exploited as there's no unions, they have no voice essentially, and that's kind of similar. So do you see this as like a wider issue across society?
Absolutely. I mean, every worker should be organised and should have the right to join a union. It's the only way that we build up any kind of ability to defend ourselves, to get those higher pay.
Do you think that non-humans should also have bodily autonomy?
I think that humans are fundamentally different,
of course,
to animals,
yeah,
and everything like that. So I think respect for animal welfare and things like that is important, but it's not the same. Absolutely, it's not the same thing in terms of you can't organise animals, you can't unionise animals and ask them to take a collective decision to defend themselves.
Of course.
So I believe we should have safe welfare standards and things like that, but ultimately, animals and humans completely different. Humans come first.
Of course, and I'm not here to say that we need to give a cow a right to vote or put them on the same level even as us other humans. But I suppose my question is, do you think that they deserve bodily autonomy to the point where we wouldn't exploit them?
To the point where you mean you wouldn't be killing them in slaughterhouses, is that what you mean? Well, I'm a vegetarian, and I think probably ultimately to save the planet, more and more people are going to have to cut out as many animal products as possible.
No, for sure. I mean, the environment I think it's a real growing issue, especially in London now. It's getting talked about a lot more. But specifically about the animal rights issue, do you think there's any justification, say, for taking away a chicken's autonomy or a cow's autonomy for the dog wants us to play? Taking away a chicken or a cow's autonomy for their eggs or for their dairy. Is there any justification we can use?
Well, I mean, I don't agree quite with the idea of autonomy and rights. I was thinking about animal welfare, but rights are a thing that I think are basically for humans and humanity. So I'm not sure animals have rights in the way that you're talking about in quite that way, nor would they understand the concept of their autonomy being taken away. So I'm not sure that's useful. Obviously, there's a justification for doing it. It feeds people. Does that mean that it's the best thing to do? That's open to debate and discussion. Sure. Not something I'd necessarily agree with.
Oh my god, this dog is so annoying. So animals do have rights, right? I mean, like that dog, the dog here has rights. If I was to try and kill that dog, I'd be arrested. Someone else needs to throw that. Thank you.
That's not the same. Animals protected under the law is not the same as them having rights. But
the animal rights do exist.
I think there's a concept of that. I don't necessarily think that animals have rights.
And I understand that you're
talking about humans that are fought for. Animals don't fight for their own.
Sure. But some humans wouldn't be able to comprehend human rights, but we still give them their rights.
Yeah, but humanity as a whole can, right? So those
right, and humanity is
able to, but there aren't a section of animals fighting for other like that's.
No.
That's sort of. I think that's largely nonsense.
But if there was a section of humans who didn't fight for their rights, maybe an indigenous tribe who we had no contact with, we wouldn't exploit them. We'd still say they have the right to life, they have their bodily autonomy.
There is a fundamental difference between animals and humans.
Of course, but I agree with you.
Them, then we disagree.
So I completely agree with you. There's a fundamental difference. But my question is, what is the difference that justifies killing them?
Humans and animals are absolutely. Humans have free will. Humans have the right to advance themselves and the ability to advance themselves, move forward, to innovate. No animals don't share that.
But some humans can't innovate. some humans literally just watch TV, or they're mentally disabled. Some humans aren't doing anything like you've just described, and you still would treat them fairly, and you still wouldn't want to hurt them unnecessarily.
I mean, the choice you're bringing up, I feel they bear no relation. You know, people who are unable to make choices for reasons of being disabled or whatever it's not comparable whatsoever.
Why?
To animals.
Because
then you're basically saying that people who are disabled are the same, essentially, as animals that can't make those choices. And there is some layer of people who are benevolent and like better at doing these things somehow. You know, I think that's incredibly crass.
But I'm asking you, what is it about the animal that makes it okay to hurt them? Like, what is it about them that makes it okay? And you're saying, well, it's because they can't innovate. I'm saying,
I've not. You're changing the argument. I've no point said that it's okay to hurt animals.
But so buying eggs or buying dairy obviously exploits and causes suffering to the animals.
Right. So
I'm saying the justification for buying the products, I suppose.
Yeah, as I said, my justification, as I said there, was it feeds people.
Okay, I could eat that dog and it would feed me. I could eat a human and it would feed me.
Sure.
So
you could do that, but you're not going to go and eat the human, are you? So.
But my point is that the justification then clearly isn't consistent. It's not that it feeds people that makes it moral. Otherwise, eating you would be moral.
No. But again, you've changed what I've said. I didn't say it was moral. I said that's the reason.
You said it's a moral justification.
No, I never said moral justification.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's what you're talking about.
But it's not a justification.
The problem here is I've come to a protest about trade union freedom. You want to turn it into your justification about how I think you essentially believe that animals and humans are exactly the same.
That's not true. That's not why. I've never said that.
Okay,
so I believe that you have more moral value than that dog. You have more moral value than a chicken. I just don't think that the chicken's life is worth less than your taste buds.
Right. So you support a woman's right to choose?
Are you talking about abortion?
Abortion, yeah.
I'm pro-choice up to the point of sentience, yes.
Yeah, so you're pro-choice up to the point of sentience?
Yes.
What is that in your mind?
So I mean, of course, there's a point where it becomes immoral. I mean, one day before...
Where is that?
There's a lot of scientific debate around that, and I'm not sure where that point is.
Right, okay. So you would... I mean, I think then you get into very tricky territory yourself. If you have a thing where you eventually kind of... If you don't believe that you should be able to have the woman's right to choose right up until the point, I think, of Labour, then I don't think you share a genuine right to choose. And then I think your own... And I think this is the problem that you... Probably some people have when you're going to make an argument, because you consistently, I agree, you should probably be against killing all animals no matter what. Right. So the fact that you're pro-choice is a good thing. I'm not sure how that weighs up with your attitude to animals in general.
Because I believe that we should all have the freedom to choose as long as our choices don't cause a lot of suffering to others, essentially.
Right.
I think then it needs to be justified, then there's an issue.
Right.
So that's why I mentioned sentience, because as soon as the fetus becomes sentient, it becomes a moral issue. But we know that the animals that we exploit and we cause suffering to are fully sentient. They're sentient beings.
It's not an issue of sentience, it's an issue of the woman's right to choose. Right? It's the woman's body.
But it's also the fetus's body, the baby's body, one day before birth.
I don't accept that. I don't accept that. The fetus is solely down to the woman.
So what, you think it's okay to kill the baby one day before birth?
I say I wouldn't kill the baby. It's
abort.
Abort the fetus, yes.
One day before birth.
If you have to question though, don't you? Why is it that someone would be in a position where they do that? Do you think it'd be very common? I imagine it wouldn't be.
But either way, whether or not the baby is inside the womb or not, if it's one day before it's going to be born, they have the same moral value to me. But my point is, if you value that woman's bodily autonomy to that point, then what about the bodily autonomy of the pigs and the chickens and the cows that we exploit and kill? What about their bodily autonomy?
I don't think they have autonomy in the same sense. They're not. You I think do whatever you say and say humans are more important. You basically do draw an equivalence between their lives.
I don't. I'm choosing between
they don't
our
taste
pleasure.
How do they have autonomy? How do they have it? What is their understanding of their autonomy?
I'm not saying they have an understanding of it, okay? But neither does a baby or a child. Not necessarily.
Well, actually, a baby and a child has a much better understanding of its own than it does than I think animals do.
No. So a cow or a pig is more intelligent than a 6-month-old baby.
The way you are doing this, I think, is deeply unhelpful. And I don't understand how you think this is going to persuade anyone to do this. The case for veganism, I think, is almost entirely to be won based on the issue of climate change. Okay?
I disagree.
The issue of climate change is what's going to do it, because it's going to be essential to phase out almost all animal products. Your kind of personal moralising towards people is not how you're going to win that
But the environment is still talking about morals. What you're talking about, it still boils down to the...
It doesn't talk about morals, it talks about objective reality.
No.
Do you want to live on a dead planet? No.
Why don't you want to live on a dead planet?
Why don't I want to live on a dead planet? Because you can't live on a dead planet.
So why would that be a bad thing?
Why would that be a bad thing? Because it would be bad for humanity to be destroyed.
Because people will die.
Because people and everyone will die.
Yeah. So it still comes down to morality.
No, that doesn't come down to morality.
Of course it is.
That doesn't come down to morality.
You're saying it's morally wrong to destroy the planet.
No, you're the one adding in it's morally wrong to destroy the planet. Your thing.
Why do you care about it?
Why do I care about it? Because I think we can have a better future.
That's talking about morality when you say better future. You're talking about the conscious beings who live on this planet.
What you're trying to do is the individual morality, based on whether you want to kill an animal, to a kind of grander scheme of things, right? And I'm not sure what you think you're achieving by having an argument with people on an individual level to say, do you think it's bad to kill animals? So I tell you, yes, I do think it's bad to kill animals. And it can be justified for food, but that doesn't mean it is right. Okay? That's what you want me to say.
So it's not justified.
And you want to come back.
It's not justified. You agree?
No, I said it can be justified. I said it can be justified.
But you said it's
food.
not right.
Yeah, I don't personally do it. I don't personally eat meat.
Because if we're talking about if you need to survive, then I'd say, okay, I agree with you, it can be justified. But when I say justified, I mean morally justified. I don't know what other term there is.
No, you can justify things, it doesn't mean that they're right, does it?
So it's not justified then.
It's
unjustified.
I can justify walking away from this interview because, frankly, it's irritating, but I'm doing you the respect of continuing to talk to you. My justification would be perfectly legitimate.
Yes.
Right? It doesn't mean you have to agree with it. Okay?
Okay, but...
So I'm trying to come to a conclusion. I want you to kind of tell me exactly where you're going with this.
Sure. So
at the moment, it's incredibly confusing.
So
I assume you want to put this on YouTube and be like, here is someone who is a hypocrite.
Not at all. Most of the people I have a conversation with, it goes very well, and people kind of say, okay, I agree that it's more in line with my morals to be vegan, and I don't want to pay for animals to suffer.
And what do they do after that?
I live with someone who I had a conversation with who's now vegan. Right. Obviously I don't follow most people up. I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, you don't know the result of this protest either. You're still coming here to try. You're trying to reduce the suffering in the world.
Sure, but I mean that is because, as I said, it's about collective response defending workers' rights, which is very important. Yours seems to be about individually trying to convince people not to eat meat, dairy, eggs. I'm not a vegetarian because I care about animals being killed or whatever.
What is that makes it okay?
It's different, isn't it? What makes it okay, as I've said. What makes it okay is the law, right? The law makes it okay.
Morally for you, I mean.
I don't do it. I don't kill animals, so I don't have a...
But the blood is on our hands when we pay someone to do it for us.
Right.
So the responsibility lies with the consumer because it's supply and demand.
Yeah, right. So
yeah, the law is very much separate from your morality, isn't it?
Well, the law actually isn't. The law often governs how people's morality works, but you know.
But we know
you're not separate from your circumstances. You don't make. You talk about free will. You're right to an extent. You don't make choices in circumstances of your choosing, right?
Yeah.
So.
But in relation to the law, I mean, slavery was legal. Women didn't have the vote. Right to vote for a long time. That was legal. Yeah. So, like, what?
And lots of people would morally justify that. That was wrong. Lots of people would use the Bible and other things to justify those things.
And you say that's an unjust...
So I say those things are unjust, but I'm not quite sure. So what you want is why I wouldn't kill you, but I might... Why I accept that people kill chickens and cows.
Or why we pay for it to happen.
Why we pay for it to happen.
Yeah.
Contribute to it to happen. It's food for people, and the animals are not the same as people for a number of different reasons.
But that's not relevant to what I'm asking you.
But it is relevant.
No, because you're not the same as me. That doesn't mean I should kill you. So,
but we are the same. We share a humanity. All of us here share a humanity that is different, whatever we think and whatever level of respect we have. Job.
But that's it. But yeah, but we're appealing to group rather than naming anything intrinsic within the dog or within the cow. We're appealing to group, and that's no different to racism or sexism. You're saying you're part of my group, and this one isn't, and therefore I'm going to discriminate.
So you consider that no different to racism? What is
the concept of arbitrary discrimination is the same. Yes, if you're just going to appeal to group.
You think right? The concept of right. I mean, I think that's where I think fundamentally I don't see this point going any further. If you basically think other levels of discrimination, so racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, all of these things are an equivalence.
I didn't say they were equivalent in terms of.
I don't see how this goes any further in terms of being useful.
So I didn't say they were equivalent in terms of how morally bad they were, although I do believe this is the biggest moral issue in the world right now.
You believe this is the biggest moral issue, is whether people kill animals?
Yes, yeah.
As opposed to whether people deal with the climate crisis, which you consider a moral issue.
The climate crisis. Yeah, this is a more important issue.
You think it's much bigger than that?
Yeah, because I think there's more misconceptions surrounding animal rights. Like if I was to come into London and say, we should do something about the climate crisis. Most people here probably agree with me. But if I was to say animals deserve their rights, a cow deserves the same rights as a dog, most people disagree with me. So I feel like there's a massive scope for improvement in this issue. Same if I was to say stop bombing kids in Syria, most people here probably agree with me. But if I say stop killing chickens for eggs, people disagree.
Do you think that is more important to campaign around not killing chickens for eggs?
I think when we look at what's important, we should look at the size of the issue, and I think in terms of the numbers, like billions and billions of animals every year, where there's only 7.5 billion humans, and we look at the scope for improvement, and in terms of the scope for improvement, there's a huge scope for improvement in this issue.
So for you, if you had to choose between the bombing of Idlib,
that's not what I'm saying.
No, but I'm checking whether is it a choice for you? Do you think it's a choice to choose between stopping the bombing of Idlib today and the killing of chickens?
I'd have to look at the numbers of how many.
You'd purely do it on numbers?
Because if we're saying it was an equal number of humans and an equal number of animals, I'd say the humans. But if we're saying
a few more chickens,
well, if we're saying eternal chickens dying, so trillions and trillions of them every year, or like 100 people dying, I'd probably end the suffering. I'd probably end the issue as causing more suffering.
So the Uyghur Muslims in China, in Xinjiang province, in concentration camps, 3 million of them, but presumably there's several million cows and chickens, much more actually, and they're being slaughtered, whereas the Uyghur Muslims are fortunate, I suppose, they're only in concentration camps, being forced to eat pork, so presumably you would oppose that. But nonetheless, they're in a concentration camp. But if there was more chickens and cows, more important for government to take firm action on that, and then deal with the Uyghur Muslims, then deal with the Chinese state?
I mean, they both deserve attention.
They both deserve attention, but would you actively prioritise one over the other? Because I absolutely would actively prioritise one over the other. And it'd be the Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps. It'd be the bombing in Idlib.
But of course,
but
you don't. I mean, you don't even think we should end the Holocaust of the chickens and the cows now.
Okay, so there we go. I thought this might come up. The Holocaust of the chickens and the cows.
Yeah.
So describe to me what the Holocaust is to you.
What's sure. So the objective definition of a Holocaust is slaughter on a mass scale.
Right. Okay, and you believe that what is happening to chickens and cows is the same as the Holocaust.
Are you talking about the specific Holocaust?
The Holocaust as we specifically know it.
Yeah. No, it's not. Obviously, there's many differences between them. But do you agree with the objective definition of slaughter on a mass scale? Do you think what we're doing to animals fits into that term?
Slaughter on a mass scale, yeah, but it is done for the purpose of eating them, isn't it?
Right, but that doesn't. But that's. I don't really see how that's relevant to whether it fits into the term or whether it's morally justified.
No,
because you believe that we can be healthy.
Big difference.
You believe?
What do you think the Holocaust? So
when you say the Holocaust, you're talking about specific Holocaust, but Holocaust it's a word that's been used multiple times.
Yeah, okay, but I'm going to be very clear. I think yes, it's used in other things, but the Holocaust to me,
the Holocaust, of course,
refers to the Holocaust.
If you're saying the Holocaust,
that happened, okay, under the Third Reich, okay, that slaughtered 6 million Jews, killed thousands of others, millions of others. That is the Holocaust, and that can be used in terms of the African Holocaust and things like that. But fundamentally, that's what I talk about when I'm talking about the Holocaust, and we can talk about why that was done. What the purpose of killing all these chickens, getting their eggs, getting the milk, killing all these cows, killing all these pigs, the mass slaughter, which that's how you want to define the Holocaust. Why do you think it's being done?
Because we like the way they taste.
Right, okay.
So sensory pleasure.
Sensory pleasure.
Yeah, just like people hunt for pleasure, people go fox hunting, people go to dog fights for pleasure. I think the reason we now consume animals is because we like the way they taste. I believe that a long time ago it was done for a necessity, like our ancestors, hunter-gatherers, of course. But I don't think sensory pleasure is a good enough justification to cause large amounts of suffering.
Right, okay. You could have said mass slaughter. You could have said the killing of millions of animals, but you did choose to use the term the Holocaust.
If an objective word offends you, I don't really care because it's an objective word.
No, but
I can show you the definition if you want.
I'm asking why you use
because that's what it is. That's what it is.
Right, but you use that because presumably you want to emote I used it
because that's what it is.
You use it because that's what it is, and you wouldn't.
Factually.
In no way would you refer to it if so. You just think it's a perfectly usual word to use for kind of mass slaughter, so you can use it generically.
It's the biggest Holocaust the world's ever seen.
The biggest Holocaust the world's ever seen. Yeah. So make it worse.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're done. Thanks.
Thanks.